On October the 16th, 2024, 19-year-old Gontse Salome Mokgohloa was found dead under the Majaneng bridge in Hammanskraal's Babelegi area. Her body bearing the marks of brutal violence, stab wounds to the neck, strangulation, stripped completely naked. 3 days earlier on Sunday evening, she'd left her home in Majaneng Northwest with a friend to go to an entertainment club in Hammanskraal. Her last WhatsApp activity was on Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. After that, silence. By Tuesday, her sister Keriboni's heart told her something terrible had happened. On Wednesday, the worst was confirmed. The student who studied performing arts in Bronkhorstspruit, who allowed friends to sleep over when they came home late at night, who made video calls with her aunt talking about December visits. She would never come home again. This is Brick and Blood, South African Town Tales. It is Sunday, October the 13th, 2024. Evening settled over Majaneng in the Northwest Province. Gontse Salome Mokgohloa, 19, prepared to go out with a friend. She was a student at Nanhua Performing Arts in Bronkhorstspruit, pursuing dreams in performance and creativity. At around 6 p.m., she left home heading to an entertainment club in Hammanskraal. For Gontse, going out wasn't unusual. She was social, she was loving, the kind of person who welcomed friends into her home and made sure they got back safely. Her sister Keriboni, 31, who had helped raise her, knew Gontse's patterns. She always communicated. She always checked in. On Monday, October the 14th, 2024, Keriboni checked her phone and saw Gontse's WhatsApp last seen at 7:30 a.m. She sent a message, "Are you fine? Where are you?" The message showed only one tick, delivered but not read. For sisters who communicated every day, this silence was alarming. On Tuesday, October the 15th, 2024, there was still no response. Keriboni's worry transformed into dread. "I told my mother that I feel like Gontse is no longer in this world. My heart was beating hard," she later told Daily Sun. It's the kind of premonition that family members describe when tragedy strikes someone they love deeply. The family began making calls, checking with friends, trying to retrace Gontse's movements. The trail went cold. On Wednesday, October the 16th, 2024, the news reached the family through the community. Gontse's body had been found under the Majaneng bridge in the Babelegi area of Hammanskraal. The details painted a picture of extreme violence. Gontse had been stabbed in the neck. She was strangled with internal bleeding, indicating the severity of the assault. She'd also been found naked, a final violation of dignity in death. For Keriboni and her mother, Sina, 57, the grief was crushing. "I'm hurt and in great pain," Sina told reporters. "I just lost my daughter. We want justice for her. Whoever did this must rot in jail." Keriboni's questions poured out. Why did that person kill Gontse? What did she do to the killer? Why didn't that person leave my sister alone? I want to know when the person attacked her. Did she scream? And what did she say to that person? These weren't just rhetorical questions, they were desperate attempts to understand the incomprehensible, to reconstruct her loved one's final moments. Gontse's aunt Johanna Morometsi, 69, added, "I'm heartbroken. I was expecting a lot from her. I last spoke to Gontse and her sister on Sunday, 13 October, on a video call. She told me she wanted to visit me in Benoni in December. That Sunday video call, the casual family connection, the plans for December that would never happen, represented everything stolen when Gontse was murdered. Not just her present life, but her future, the relationship she would have nurtured, the art she would have created." Her grandfather, Kaiser Mokgohloa, 76, joined the family in mourning a granddaughter whose potential had been violently erased. Gauteng Police spokeswoman Colonel Dimakatsu Nevuhulwi confirmed what the family feared. As per the case number you provided, that is a murder case and no suspects have been arrested. The Majaneng Bridge area became a crime scene. Forensic teams collected evidence, but in cases where victims are found after days have passed, evidence degrade quickly. The community responded with rituals that mark violent loss. A candlelight memorial was planned for Thursday, October the 24th, at the spot where Gontse was found. A memorial service on Friday, October the 25th, a burial on Saturday, October the 26th, at Marubani Cemetery. Johanna asked attendees to wear black t-shirts and blue trousers in memory of Gontse. But beneath the memorials and mourning, Kediboni's pleas wasn't only for candles and prayers, it was for practical help. Kediboni pleaded for help with groceries and candles. The economic reality of sudden death means families already struggling must now bear funeral costs and the loss of a household member. As weeks turned to months without arrests, Gontse's case joined the too long list of unsolved murders. Who killed her? Why? What happened between Sunday night and Wednesday morning? Did she know her killer? The Majaneng Bridge where Gontse's body was found represents a type of infrastructure that exists throughout South Africa's urban and peri-urban areas. Spaces designed for one purpose that inadvertently create conditions for crime. Bridges are meant to connect, to allow traffic and pedestrians to cross waterways, to link communities separated by geography. But the spaces beneath bridges often become dead zones. These are areas without a legitimate purpose. It's unlit, unwatched, isolated enough to provide cover for criminal activity. The Babelegi area, like many South African communities, developed with industry and commerce as primary considerations. Bridges, roads, and transport infrastructure were built to move goods and people efficiently. But these planning decisions rarely accounted for safety of vulnerable individuals, particularly women and young people who might find themselves in these spaces after dark. The bridge that became Gontse's crime scene likely has characteristics common to such infrastructure: poor lighting or no lighting at all, limited visibility from surrounding areas, irregular foot traffic, that means there's no natural surveillance, and isolation from emergency response resources. Entertainment venues in Hammanskraal, like in many South African towns, serve a crucial social function. It provides spaces for young people to gather, to celebrate, and to build community. But the routes between these venues and residential areas often lack basic safety features. Poorly lit streets, isolated walking paths. When entertainment districts develop without adequate lighting and surveillance on surrounding streets, when public transport doesn't extend to areas where young people gather, communities inadvertently create environments where violence can occur with reduced risk to the perpetrators. For Gontse, the journey from entertainment venue to the Majaneng Bridge represents the gap between promise and reality in South African urban planning. The unsolved nature of Gontse's case underscores another architectural failure, the lack of surveillance systems that might have captured evidence of what happened. In an era when cameras are everywhere in commercial spaces, the public infrastructure where crimes actually occur often remains unwatched and unrecorded. When we talk about violence against women in South Africa, when we reference murder statistics, when we discuss the vulnerability of young people, we're talking about people like Gontse Salome Mokgohloa. But she was never a statistic. She was a 19-year-old performing arts student with dreams, a sister who communicated daily with her family, a friend who welcomed others into her home and made sure they got back safely. Her sister Keraboni's words captured who Gontse was beyond the violence that ended her life. My little sister was a loving person. She used to allow friends to sleep over every time they came back home at night. Gontse was studying performing arts in Bronkhorstspruit, pursuing creative expression in a country where opportunities for young people are limited, but dreams remain resilient. Her story matters because her death exposes how South African infrastructure fails to protect young people who are simply trying to live normal lives. She went to an entertainment club with a friend, an ordinary activity that young people everywhere engage in without fearing for their lives. But between that club and her home lay spaces where safety couldn't be guaranteed, where infrastructure designed for other purposes created opportunities for violence. Gontse deserved to finish her studies, to pursue her artistic dreams, to make those December visits to her aunt in Benoni. She deserved to grow old, to build relationships, to contribute to her community in ways that were cut short on a Sunday night in October when she simply went out with a friend to enjoy her youth. Her story demands that communities and planners acknowledge how spaces designed without considering safety create conditions for violence. Most of all, her story demands that we remember Gontse Salome Mokgohloa not as a victim statistic, but as a young woman whose life mattered, whose dreams deserve to be realized, whose family deserves answers and justice that may never come. The Majaneng Bridge still stands in Babelegi, carrying traffic over water, while the space beneath remains a reminder of violence that stole a young woman's life. Gontse's family continues waiting for answers that may never arrive, for justice that remains elusive months after her murder. Her case file sits with investigators who likely juggle dozens of similar cases, each representing a life cut short, a family devastated, a community made less safe. Without witnesses willing to come forward, without physical evidence that clearly identifies a perpetrator, Gontse's murder may join the thousands of unsolved cases that haunt South African police stations. But her family refuses to let her be forgotten. Her sister Kedeboni's voice keeps asking the questions that demand answers. Her mother, Sina's pain, keeps calling for justice. Her aunt, Johanna's heartbreak, keeps reminding communities that every murder victim is someone's daughter, sister, niece, someone loved and missed and mourned. Gontse Salome Mokgohloa deserved better than to die under a bridge at 19. She deserved better than to become another unsolved case file. She deserved to live, to create, to love, to build the life she was working toward when violence found her. Somewhere, someone knows what happened that October night. Her story isn't over until justice comes. If you found this episode meaningful, please support Brick and Blood South African Town Tales by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Please leave a review, share the episode, and help us keep telling the stories of South African towns where architecture and crime intersect. If you have any information about the murder of Gontse Salome Mokgohloa, please come forward. Even the smallest detail could help bring justice to her family. You can contact the SAPS Crime Stop at 086 00 10 or use the MySAPS app. There is an anonymous tip-off feature available. Every voice matters. Every tip can make a difference. Walk softly, listen deeply, and remember, every wall has a story.